Greetings, comic friends. Let's celebrate this last Wednesday with TGIW. Thank God it is Wednesday, the best day of the week, new comic book day. So, as expected, this week had a few more books than usual, because last week, one of my shops didn't get in. It lost the UPS lost a shipment, and 3 books that I should have gotten last week showed up this week. So we can start with those. They were all my Image titles for last week. So we had Noctera, number 14. This may not be as close to wrapping up as I thought. Coming into this issue at the end of 13, it was like, all right, they're reaching their destination. There's going to be some sort of showdown or something, and it's going to wrap up. That may not be the case. It's hard to tell. I could see it maybe wrapping stuff up in 2 more issues or so, but I could also see it being like, it's going to keep going. So, I don't know. I lean towards wanting it to wrap up. Books like that, they have an interesting idea, a good premise, but they are better when they tell their story and then get out. When it starts to drag on, it gets tough for me. Junkyard Joe number 6. This is the last issue of this run of Junkyard Joe. I presume there will be another, or at the very least, whenever they bring this this whole team of people they're building together, them, Geiger, Redcoat, all this unnamed universe stuff. But this is very, very good. I really like all this unnamed stuff, both as a universe and the standalone stories. So reading Junkyard Joe isn't just... Like, don't read Junkyard Joe because, well, I read Geiger and I like Geiger, and eventually Junkyard Joe is going to be brought into that, so I have to know where he comes from. Read Junkyard Joe because Junkyard Joe is legit a good book on its own. But I've yet to be disappointed by any of the unnamed stuff. And then Saga 64. Yes, Saga 64. I was talking to one of my buddies about Saga this last weekend, and it's good to know that I'm not alone. And I think we kind of came up with what I maybe wasn't able to verbalize before. Where before I'd just be saying, like, it seems like it's dragging on, and don't really understand what's happening. I think the point, the thing that's missing is sort of a goal. I guess like the first part of Saga was all about Alana and Marco and not getting captured and their love and this Romeo and Juliet style thing, and then that got resolved, but it was all heading towards the resolution of that. And now it's just Alana and her kids sort of trying to survive in general without a destination. Like, where is this story supposed to be going? What is the conclusion that we're trying to get to? I mean, not of the whole series, but just of what is currently going on. And I don't see it. It's not there. So it just seems to be meandering a little bit, searching for its purpose. I would be happier with it if I knew they were trying to achieve something. But and maybe I'm missing it. And if you see it and I don't, please let me know. But I don't see it, other than things are just kind of going on. In well-crafted stories, there's parts to it, and one of them is some sort of conclusion or resolution or something like that you're heading towards, and you're heading towards it at some point. This has been, and maybe you don't know what that is right away, but Saga has been in this state for a long time, and I want to keep liking it. It's still very pretty. The writing is good. It's just as a story, I feel a bit lost. Okay, on to stuff for this week. Fantastic Four number 7, Legacy 700. I'm sure they planned that. This is very, very good. As far as the ongoing story is concerned, like the overall arc of Fantastic Four, there's a little bit of that here. But the majority of it is really just a self-contained story involving Doctor Doom. And there's nothing wrong with that. When I say like this is a one-off, this is a filler issue, that isn't necessarily negative, because if it's good, it's good. And that's fine. Not everything has to push the plot forward a whole bunch. We get the plot pushed forward a little bit. Other than that, it's just a really solid Doctor Doom story. I mean, it's not a flashback or anything. It takes place in the current time. We'll leave it at that. But it's just a really good, how to say, deconstruction of how Doom sees himself and the world around him and others around him. It's pretty incredible. I highly suggest it. If you haven't been reading Fantastic Four, but you have an interest in Fantastic Four, I think this issue alone is at least worth picking up, just because it does stand alone on its own very well, and it's very good. A Legacy of Violence number 5. These Colin Bunn horror books, I think I'm done with them once this is over. You know, I have been doing Bunny Mask. I picked up this because of that in the art. Every time I read this, like, I don't know what's happening. It could be me. It could be that I've forgotten what I've read previously, which happens to me quite often. But usually I'm able to pick things up out of context. I don't seem to be able to do that with this. So I don't know if it's me, if it's the style of storytelling that doesn't work with how I read comics, or it's just not well put together. I don't know. But whatever the case may be, I don't think it's for me. I will see this out because issue 6 is probably the last issue. But the next time I see one of these Colin Bunn horror stories on the shelf, I'll probably skip it. Star Trek number 8. The love letter to Deep Space Nine continues. I love it. My favorite DS9 character shows up in this issue. Cisco is captured by the Kardashians and is put on trial for war crimes committed during the Dominion War. It's clear they're just kind of out for vengeance. He's not really to blame. You know, they were being controlled by, the Kardashians were being controlled by the Dominion. It's kind of really their fault. But they want somebody to blame. And Captain Cisco is sort of the easiest. So it's just kind of about the setting up of that trial and a bit of that trial. And we're not given the verdict yet. But so great. Again, it has characters from all generations of Star Trek, but it really thrives in its... The story is taking place in stuff that spawned from Deep Space Nine, so it's especially great for DS9 fans, which everyone should be. House of Slaughter number 15. So I think this arc might be finishing next issue, number 16. Are they like little 4-issue arcs, I think? It definitely feels like it's wrapping up. So the main character, Boucher, what's his name? J. Starts with J. I don't remember. He had saved this kid. He had left the house that he was a part of. Was trying to raise him on his own. They came after him mainly for leaving, and part of the thing that they did is kidnap this kid and is integrating him into his old house, and he's trying to get him back. Madballs versus Garbage Pail Kids, Time Again, Slime Again. This is so much fun. This is the last issue of this. So it was little stories throughout time of presuming that the Garbage Pail Kids and Madballs have existed throughout time, and them clashing heads. So one of the stories is during the 60s, during the space race, and they decide to get into their own space race against each other. There's also a story about the near future and what happens then with them, which is why I definitely assume that this is the last issue. But it is stupid, juvenile fun. She-Hulk number 13. So this is trying to enter in some conflict in She-Hulk's love life. She and Jack of Hearts are still together, but Jack of Hearts has gotten his power back, which drains energy. So if they make contact, there's the risk that Jack of Hearts may drain all the gamma out of She-Hulk. So their relationship is very strained right now. It's a hands-off. There is a new villain running around that definitely has the hots for She-Hulk and is trying to woo her. She-Hulk is like, no, I want to fight you. I'm going to put you in jail. He is very elusive. He is a thief and very, very good at getting away. But you get the feeling that She-Hulk is kind of like, well, I am pretty unhappy with this Jack of Hearts situation. Maybe. Planet of the Apes number 2. So I really like this book. It's only 2 issues in that I really, really like it. So this is definitely taking after the more recent movies, which I think is good. Like, don't get me wrong. I love the original Planet of the Apes movies. All of them. Even, maybe, especially the bad ones. Where all we know that happened is, in the original movies, is there was some sort of nuclear holocaust, and humans were nearly wiped out. Somehow they became primitive, and somehow apes became more evolved. It was fine for a 1970s or 60s, 70s movie. The more recent movies make a lot more sense, where we were working on a cure for Alzheimer's, and it was being tested on apes. So Alzheimer's, something to help boost brain cognizance. It had the effect on apes that it did, in fact, boost their cognizance, which started their evolutionary process. So how do the humans go away? Well, there was a version of this cure that mutated into a virus that was deadly to humans. So it's the same. So it's the same thing. The same thing that caused the rising of apes to also be the downfall of humans. And also, I think it maybe had a negative effect on the human brain and kind of brought them down mentally. So it's in that universe. And this is like the beginning of it, where the virus is just kind of coming out. There's a group of terrorists. They name the virus the simian flu, which is kind of unfair because it didn't originate with apes. It originated with humans. Humans injected it into apes. But there is a group of terrorists that blame apes for humans' downfall or their decline anyway, and go to kill any primates that are out there. The problem being that the primates probably hold the key to curing what the issue is. So there are groups that are trying to save them, scientists mainly that know that we can't let them all die because we need to study them to help save humanity. And this also starts a backup story with a particular ape. It looks like it's going to be a continuing backup story. Miles Morales, number 6. So evidently this is part of a crossover, Carnage Reigns, which I am not reading. This reads fine enough as a one-off. You can definitely tell that it is part of a larger story. It is only part 2 of that story, so you can gain enough from context to get enough what's going on to enjoy this story. There's some great interaction between Miles and Scorpion. But as far as the overall Carnage story is concerned, it's just kind of passing through for me. Predator number 3, much like Planet of the Apes, these Fox properties having comics are fantastic. This, in Planet of the Apes, and Aliens, I love them all. So in this story, there were a number of humans that were taken across time and frozen, or put in stasis, whatever, and then all taken out of stasis at the same time and put into a hunting preserve for the predators to hunt. The character that's been the star of the past maybe 2 Predator series, the one that hunts predators, ends up with them as well and is trying to save them. But ultimately, they all want to get back to Earth. They don't know what the state of Earth is, really. Most of them don't, because they've been in stasis for up to hundreds of years. But it's a try not to get killed and get away story, and it's very good. So that's everything from the poll. I did pick one thing up off the shelf, and I'm glad that I did. It is Hulk Annual number 1. So there's a main story and a backup story. The main story is a flashback-ish sort of thing. It already happened before. It's about some people making a documentary about the Hulk and following and trying to film him and all this. And, of course, they get caught up in it. And it's a good story. It involves Mole Man and Moloids and another monster. But it's a very good story. It's a nice Hulk palate cleanser after the previous run. There's also a backup story which starts to set up what is going to be the new series of Hulk. So even if you didn't like the last run of Hulk, which this annual might technically belong to that previous version, even if you didn't like that or weren't reading it, I do not blame you. I did not either. But this is a safe pickup. This is probably a good pickup because, 1, again, good palate cleanser. 2, a little bit of setup for the next series, which I am hopeful for because I have to be. It certainly can't be worse. So that's all of the new books for this week. I think it was a total of 13. So without the 3 that I should have got last week, it would have been 10, which is good. There are also a few things that I got in the mail over the past couple days that I'm not going to make a separate video for, so I figure might as well throw it in here. I picked up some stuff to work on some runs. One book I got was Tales of the TMNT number 8. Just random Tales of the TMNT stuff that I still need. I kind of wish I never would have started this. It's a pain. Everything that's left is just way overpriced. This is not in the best condition, but I was able to get it for like $10, which is a good deal for most any Tales of the TMNT book these days. But at this point, I don't care about getting these in super mint condition. I just want the books so I can eventually complete the run and read the stories. Then the rest, I got 3 Daredevil books. 2 I got off of eBay from the same seller. They were I made offers on them, and they accepted both the offers. First is Daredevil number 77. Any Daredevil book that has Spider-Man in it usually goes for a bit more than usual. This has Spider-Man and Submariner. It's also a really cool cover, and it's in decent shape. So I think I got this for a really good price for its condition and for what it is. Daredevil number 15. This is not in great shape. They put it at a very good, which I think is a reasonable grade. So I knew what I was getting into when I got it, but the price is really good for it, and it presents very well for a very good. So I was okay with it, getting it and being in my collection. And it's a lower number Daredevil, so it's always good to knock those off, especially if I can get it for a good price. And the next one I got off of Shortboxed. It was the biggest Daredevil book I had left, and that's Daredevil #2. So it's the second appearance of Daredevil, graded at a 4.0. It's also an Electro appearance. I believe also the second appearance of Electro. But this was the biggest Daredevil book that I needed. So it's always nice to pick off like the most expensive one off of your list, because now the most expensive one is less expensive. I think the most expensive one I have left now is probably going to be #6, which is the last appearance of the yellow costume. Last appearance of the yellow costume, at least in that original bit of Daredevil. So with these 3 in hand, I now have 8 more issues of Daredevil to go. Most of them, unfortunately, are in the lower numbers. I have 1 left in the 300s, and then everything else I think the next highest I need is 38, and then stuff below that, because I think the last video I posted I got a 38, but I'm not keeping it, or at least I'm not putting it as part of the collection, so that needs to get replaced. So I guess like 377 or something, 370 something, and then after that I have 38. So I think I have 39 all the way up to 376 is complete. So we're getting close. I'm kind of wanting to knock it out here pretty soon, just because it'd be nice not to worry about it. And I'm not planning on jumping into another run, at least for a little while. So it'd be nice to have some time off of searching for Silver and Bronze Age Marvel books to fill in runs. It's been a while since I've lived in that world where I just didn't have to worry about it. But that's it. That's all for this week. Solid new books. Some good stuff to work on runs. So overall, it was a pretty good week, comic-wise. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all of that, and don't forget to make yours Titan. This video was brought to you by Titan Comic Pressing. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Titan Comic Pressing LLC.